going to start out with the opening statement, and Mr. Penman, Jim, I think I'm going to go by the first name. I'm more comfortable with that if you're okay with
When
it.
you were over there, you said she was gonna go first.
No, on the closing statement. You're on the opening.
Very good, I'm glad to do that.
Okay, go for it.
Press the button. How's that? Just it,
Hello? There we go. Okay, well, I've lived in San Bernardino all my life, kindergarten through high school, in the first class, go all 4 years, Cal State San Bernardino, second ASP president. I've served United States Army after my active duty time, reserve time, totaling 6 years my enlistment. Served as a firefighter, working my way through college, was your city police commissioner, appointed 2 different times. I worked as a dishwasher at the Tartan on Highland and Del Rosa when I was in high school. I was the administrative assistant to President John Fow at Cal State San Bernardino. I was the executive director of the Home and Neighborly Service on Mount Vernon on the west side for 13 years. And I was your city attorney. You elected me 7 different times, and during that period of time, we closed over 500 gang and drug houses. We saw to it that a number of corrupt city officials left office, either by resignations after investigations. Once I had to get the Attorney General to prosecute 2 for bribery, they pled guilty. We had a pretty good run on that. Now, my platform is pretty simple. It's clean up our city. That's what we have to do. And we have to start with the homeless. We have to move them, and we have to move them now. No pause, no pause. Now, one of the other points that talking about is informing you about my opponent. My opponent, on April 9th, on her webpage, put out a statement saying that Councilwoman Theodore Sanchez had been named in a lawsuit because he said things about council members causing litigation. And she said he was named. Here, here, do I get a couple seconds back for this? Here is the lawsuit. Mr. Sanchez's name is not mentioned. It's not on here. So why did my opponent make up a story, post it online, and say that Mr. Sanchez had been named in a lawsuit when he wasn't? And it doesn't stop there. April 4, my opponent posts another thing on her campaign page saying, last night, 4 council members voted to give away taxpayer money to Steve Kerrigan. Now, how did she know that? That would have taken place in closed session.
They didn't. We just voted for it last night, $100,000.
No, you get your chance. See, we're dealing with someone who doesn't follow the rules, folks. Now, this is exactly what happened. She put this statement out. She said last night they voted. Now, either she made that up, or someone leaked that information to her in closed session. I don't know which it was. I don't know if someone leaked it to her. I don't know if she lied and said that they had voted when they didn't, but this is her statement. You know, mudslinging is when you make up something false about your opponent and you say it. Telling the truth about your opponent, even if it's negative, is not mudslinging. That's part of the democratic process. That's what we do. That's how you learn the good things. That's how you learn the bad things. But if you're lied to, time and time again, you cannot trust the person who's saying anything. And I've only got 15 seconds left, and I'm going to shut up. Thank you.
No applause, please.
Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. It is so awesome to have so many of you here. And I appreciate my opponent spending so much time focusing on me. maybe be the president of the fan club. Let me know if you want to join the campaign. Because what I'm here for tonight is you. Because nobody talks about you. Could you imagine a council member putting the time and effort into researching the budget and an actual plan for homelessness instead of fake letters?
There's interfering with microphone.
Okay.
That's too much, that's what's happening, he needs to take his phone, his microphone off. Yeah.
Walk in front of the maybe.
Right up in front of the speakers.
Keep going.
Just.
Okay. Because what's important here is that the city of San Bernardino is failing. The city of San Bernardino has been failing. And no one has done anything to stop it. Since I moved here 12 years ago, all I hear is excuses for failed politicians, no plans for advancement, no cohesive idea for the future, and nothing but corruption. And that's why the old crooked politicians come back. That's why they handpick unfit candidates. Because they need to continue with the game in San Bernardino, which is about them and funding and not you. And for the last 5 years, we as a community have fought together to expose the corruption, the mishandling, the lawsuits caused directly by council people and the mayors. Over the last 3 days, our city has lost $2.2 million to payouts. That could have been more police, more code enforcement, actual initiatives to build housing for the homeless. But we don't do that here. People don't want to talk about you. They want to talk about everything else. Because you know why? That's the agenda. If San Bernardino were first, you would be first. But that's why we're last. And what I want you to do this time, and I appreciate being the lead, 9 points ahead out of the primary, because what it shows me is you're ready for this change. That San Bernardino is not going back to a failed pass and a failed recalled politician. That you want to see the possibilities, not the failure. This is not season 1 of San Bernardino. We are in 2024. No longer will we watch someone try to type on a typewriter and look at Google and call it forward progress and innovation. It is time for San Bernardino to take its place in the Inland Empire, and that's what I do as your next city council member. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna get this figured out here in a minute. Maybe. Okay. Okay, you're first. Okay. Okay, treasure. An enhanced quality of, an enhanced quality of life for ourselves and others is a high priority. For those of us in the 7th Ward, what 2 items will you complete as our representative in the first 6 months of office? How do you plan to accomplish those items?
So this is speaking to the quality of life in the 7th Ward. And the 2 biggest issues right now are homelessness, which encompasses public safety, so we're going to throw that all together, and then the conditions of our city, the blight, the code enforcement issues. And those are the 2 things right now that within the first 100 days of being elected that we can really focus and maintain on. The city has over $60 million to address homelessness. They are building to be potentially out of their injunction. That means we need to move quickly on an ability to have and maintain shelter, transitional, and permanent housing. Additionally, slumlords are allowed to just run amok through our city. People are allowed to leave their properties unattended and thrown over. We address these 2 issues It improves the quality of life. It improves safety. It helps take the burden off of our officers in both areas because we use them for everything rather than what their true purpose is, which is to protect and serve. What I want to do is make sure that those who qualify for housing are housed and fight for a place at Patton State Hospital so that the mentally ill and the drug addicted are treated and not just thrown wherever and then back on the streets. We have to stop the rotating door of homelessness in our city. And that has to come with a solid plan. If you look at the flyer I handed you, it lays it out. Being with the Veterans Hospital, making sure that we have youth housing for the kids that are on the streets, that are homeless, that are runaways, and putting every component together. That we are a majority housing board, and this is what we need to act on quickly. Thank you.
Don't come out front, Jim, stay back there. That is what's giving us feedback. Yours on?
Just talk, Jim, just talk.
If you're right, Terry, I'll be back. As for the. As for the. As for. Is it on?
I can hear you.
As for the homeless, move them now. No more excuses. The injunction does not prevent us from moving the homeless. We have recently, since the Supreme Court made its decision, moved homeless out of one park on the west side of San Bernardino already. We moved them out beneath the 215 freeway bridge on Mill Street. We can move them. It is totally false to say that we cannot. That is our biggest problem, and that's what I'm going to focus on in my first 6 months. Now, I only will have one vote. I'm not going to be the mayor or the city manager. I can't do it. So I can't fully answer that question, but I can say what I'll focus on, and it's going to be the homeless, and it's going to be crime. The city has property everywhere, and we can move the homeless today to those properties. We have 5.5 acres on East 6th Street, just east of Water, and the city's already planning to do something there. We can pick up all the homeless camps, all the tents, transport them there now to the land, to that property, to those vacant fields. They're in the same position that they would be in if they were still Paris Hill Park and Wildwood. Except we have to give them mental health services, we have to give them anti-addiction programs. Thank you.
Okay, Jim's still up. How will you ensure that Seventh Ward voices from all areas are heard and considered equally? How will you advocate for the needs and concerns being voiced?
I will return every phone call. I will go to the neighborhood meetings. I have a policy that I've had all my professional life. Every call gets returned within 24 business hours. And that's what I do. And I will do that with you, and I will listen to you. And you should hold me accountable, just as you held me accountable years ago. You will not be disappointed by doing that. It's absolutely essential that your representative represents you, not special interests, not other people, but you. But it's also vital that your representative knows what he or she is doing. You heard my opponent say something about the budget, and that's great. But 2007, not that long ago, my opponent filed for personal bankruptcy. Personal bankruptcy. Couldn't pay her own bills. And when the case was dismissed, the court said they were dismissing it without discharging her from bankruptcy because she failed to complete the instructional course concerning personal finance management. There it is in black and white. Court document. How is she going to watch our budget? How is she going to take care of our budget when she can't take care of her own? And she talks about accuracy. She was at a Animal Advisory Commission meeting the other night. She said the Animal Advisory Department is underfunded. That's just nonsense. It used to be they had $4 million. Now they've got over $10 million. She apparently doesn't know that. That's in the budget. I'm telling you folks, don't go back to the way it used to be. Problem isn't this former elected official, the person who can't even take care of her own finances.
From the guy who bankrupted the city, right? Come on, San Bernardino. Recalled bankrupt Jim Penman. Want to talk about come on, San Bernardino. That's it. Hey, because you know what? Don't worry about it. It's the truth. And you know what? It hurts. But if you want to be about the community, you got to be in the community. It's not waiting till you're elected. It's being at the meetings now, meeting with the community now, speaking on the issues now that are important to people. This isn't just get in for 4 years and try to create a connection, because we already know how divided the 7th Ward is. For years of infighting amongst politicians. There was a recall to get rid of some of the worst elected officials in our city because they felt unheard. They felt unlistened to and completely pushed out of the process. That's what we need to fix. I have met with so many of you and been a part of so many of your discussions, but it's not just sitting. It's taking your input back and speaking on it and speaking to your concerns. It's what I do now. It's why you're able to follow me online and to go over the city's issues and look at the lawsuits in real time and see the agenda for itself and give your feedback on everything that concerns you. Because I'm not trying to be the 7th Ward City Council person for a title. I live in the 7th Ward, and I want to represent not just you, but myself in our future and in our growth. Thank you.
So you're still up. What measures will you be a strong advocate for to enhance environmental sustainability in our ward, including the maintenance of green spaces and addressing local environmental concerns like fires and fireworks?
So environmental concerns are a big issue, and I want to throw flooding into there because the 7th Ward has a huge flooding issue, and we know Sierra Way is an old river. We need to make sure that we are maintaining. That horrific fire the other day is a testament to the changes that's going on in our community and the lack of care and maintenance, and being able to have the greenery cut down, trees cut back, the brown spaces cleared, bringing in goats, doing the type of things that are manageable in large areas, making sure that homeowners are being supported in their efforts to cut their own grass or have the tree services done, and protecting green spaces such as the golf course. We don't have like a park, we have like a parklet, but creating more of those. Making sure that we're investing into it in community spaces. We have really good churches in our area, and being able to invest time so that we can find more community involvement. In that too, it's also us revitalizing our area in ways that we can. I live on the Greenbelt, which is right on Mountain View, and I really, really want to see that turned into a public space. Right now, because it's a 40-mile-an-hour zone, it's not safe for the community, but could you imagine if your kids could come and have a little park area instead of having to jump over the 40th Street or go across the Paris Hill? We need to start looking at ourselves as a little ecosystem and start developing that. And that's what I'd like to do environmentally.
Flood control is handled by county flood control, not by the city of San Bernardino. Environment is very important in every area. It doesn't matter whether it's, too much exhaust from trucks. That's why we need to have trucks in our city limited to certain streets. We've been advocating, many of us, for a long time for that, since a lot of the new studies came out. Right now, we have way too many trucks on Arrowhead and on Mountain View and on Sierra Way. They ought to be on Waterman. They don't belong in those other streets. And we can pass ordinances to allow that. That's something we can do about the environment. And we can maintain our parks properly once we get the homeless moved out, which we're gonna do. But hearing my opponent talk about corruption is really strange because her number one funder is the most notorious pay-for-play developer in the city of San Bernardino. I mean, everybody knows who he is. I won't say his name, but his initials are Scott Beard. And Mr. Beard is funding her campaign. He's the one that put that welfare office in the middle of a residential neighborhood when it used to be on Waterman, and he lied on his application and he said it was for office use. Didn't tell him that all of these people were gonna be coming down there, hundreds and hundreds of people every day. Mr. Beard is the one who sold and brokered the water in the city of Rialto to a private company, and the water rates in Rialto went up 100%. And Mr. Beard has told people he's gonna do the same thing with San Bernardino's water, and he said, if I got 500,000 commission on Rialto, imagine how much I'm gonna get on San Bernardino. That's the guy who's funding her. This lady who says she complains about pay to play, hey, we don't need another John Valdivia in office. That's pay to play. And that's who's funding my opponent's campaign is Mr. Pay to Play. And I've got a lot of other examples of his pay to play things that he did for years, if anybody wants to know. Thank you.
Let's keep the clapping and the cheering down. Okay, still with Jim. $24 billion has been spent on homeless issues over the past 5 years, and our California political leaders have no accounting. San Bernardino has yet to open a resource center, is under an injunction from LA Judge Hatter stemming from a lawsuit from the ACLU, and drug activity and human trafficking has been linked to homeless encampments. Homeless people living along fences, against buildings, in parks, etc., continue to be a significant problem in the 7th Ward. What is your short-term action plan that you will bring to the City Council to rectify this problem? What effect will the recent Supreme Court ruling and the governor's mandate have on actions in the 7th Ward?
We can legally move them now. I was your city attorney for years. I've read it. That injunction does not stop us from moving them. The injunction dealt with Americans with Disability Act, and it dealt with the city taking their property and not giving them due process. But they can be moved. The injunction does not stop that. I have said that. The city attorney, the current city attorney has said that. The United States Supreme Court has said that. We can go into the parks tomorrow. We can cite them if they're there after closing hours, which is 8 p.m. If they refuse to move when they're cited, they can be arrested and removed and their belongings taken and stored. Now, I don't want to see them go to jail. Move them down there on 6th Street, move all their stuff down there with them. And we have to store their stuff for a total of 90 days. Now, my opponent put out a very false video last Friday saying that that wasn't true, that we could not cite them, that we could not arrest them for staying in the park after closing. That is a lie. That is wrong. She said the injunction prohibits that. That is not true. The injunction doesn't prohibit that. I've talked to the city attorney. She agrees with me. We have no doubt about it. And the United States Supreme Court says it. Why did the city put out a press release saying the injunction was blocking it is beyond me, because the city attorney didn't sign off on that press release. I know that for a fact. And that press release was false. But my opponent goes on and says, don't believe anybody who tells you that we can move the homeless. They're lying. I'm not the one lying. The city attorney's not lying, and neither is the United States Supreme Court. She went on to say that it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says, we have a federal court judge who's issued an injunction. I'm sorry my opponent doesn't know that a 90-year-old federal judge in district court is not higher than the United States Supreme Court. And she went on to say that we had to build housing before we could move them. That's what the Grants Pass case decided by the Supreme Court said we don't have to do. It is unfortunate that my opponent either doesn't know or lies. I don't know. Maybe she just said that because I had posted that we could move them now and she wanted to make me look bad. I'm telling you guys, you can't believe her. It's one lie after the other.
You all see the homeless being moved? You see them being pulled out the parks? The Supreme Court ruled June 30th. Do you see them being moved? What? Why? Because you cannot move the homeless. And do you know why? Because we have nowhere for them to go. You cannot just arrest them because you shove them into a street. The Supreme Court ruled on Grants Pass. The city of San Bernardino has an injunction because of being out of ADA compliance in an ACL lawsuit. All you have to do is call the city of San Bernardino, and the city attorney will tell you, I didn't tell James Penman that, because she knows better. Otherwise, the homeless would be moved. But he doesn't have a plan. That's why. Just push him to 6th Street. Push him to your backyard. Push him to the flood channels so the county can pull the flood channels. Push him to the state so the state can push him back. Put him in Caltrans. That's not a plan. You have to have beds in place. I met with the chief of police and we talked about this. And he said, how foolish. How foolish. What do you want us to do? And for PD to go into the parks, push everything into the sidewalk so everybody can walk back in at 8 o'clock in the morning and push him back out at 8 o'clock at night? What a fool's mission. Well, there you have it. If things could happen, they would be happening, but they're not. That's the truth. You don't even have to listen to a live. All you have to do is drive to every single park in the city of San Bernardino. The truth is in your own eyes. But we don't do that, right? We want to attack. You don't want to talk about a plan. You don't want to talk about the fact that we're going to spend $32 million for 200 beds. When you could have 1,700 if you put $19,000 units together. You have to do more than make believe, because that's the past. That's what we are so used to in this city. Thank you.
Storage containers are often parked in the driveways for months. Neighbors often are not taking care of the yards, and cars are often using the streets as raceways, making a significant amount of loud automobile, truck, motorcycle noise. Complaints have been reported and filed, and no one seems to care about it. How can you make sure these problems are resolved?
We do not have the sufficient investment into code enforcement. That would be prior to the bankruptcy. We had 45 officers plus. And post-bankruptcy, we ended up with between 10 and 5, depending on where we were. Now, we've grown to upwards of 20, but we just found out last night we lost 2. But never in the budget do you see anybody saying, we need to increase, become competitive in salaries with our code enforcement because they're being taken over to Riverside. Or pushing to figure out how we can further expand their powers. They used to have PCA 32s. People don't feel protected here. If one officer has 500 calls, that's why you see it. That's why you see it shoved off. That's why you see the ability for people to park trailers. It's a #1 issue, and it allows to increase crime. It brings down the neighborhoods. And so our strong investment in this area alone, and parking enforcement. I know, thank you, Mike Hartley, for all that you do in pushing for parking enforcement to come around and cite and hold people accountable. Move your cars, make sure they're registered. Because that's truly it. We all have to do our part, But the city has to make sure that the investment is there to supplement what everybody else is doing. And that's gonna be what I push for, is a strong budget increase to make sure that we have competitive code enforcement officers in our city that are able to handle the calls that we need. And not only working during the day, but working in the evening. Because that's a big issue. People know after 5 o'clock, you can do what you want, and you're not gonna be held accountable. And we can change that. Thank you.
We have the laws on the books to handle all those problems, the containers, the parking, and everything else. I know that because I wrote them. Problem is, code enforcement is not properly trained, and they're not properly led. Now, I'm pleased that my opponent remembers that during the mayor's race, I was the first one to raise the issue that code enforcement here is underpaid and we need to be competitive. I'm glad she repeated that. Thank you, my opponent.
That's not true.
There she goes again, not following the rules. Now, she just told you to call the city attorney, and that the city attorney never said what I said she said. Well, that's funny, because this is an email from Jim Penman from the city attorney dated July 1, 2024, and it says, "Hi, Jim," and by the way, it's signed Sonia, and it says, "The Grant Pants decision is helpful because the city can cite and arrest people who are sleeping in the parks after closing hours and enforce all other laws on the books." This is this, and you're all going to get one of these. We're going to pass these out to you as you're leaving. This is your city attorney, the person that just told you she will not tell you that she will lie. There it is, right there, in writing. And I talk to the city attorney all the time. This is a phone message, incoming call, July 8th, from the city attorney to me, 3:01 p.m., 32 minutes. We discussed all these issues my opponent is talking about. My opponent is wrong. The video she posted where she said we couldn't move them is wrong. It's a lie. It was made up. When my opponent finds facts that do not match her narrative, she invents new facts, and she doesn't care how false they are. She doesn't care that Councilman Sanchez wasn't named in a lawsuit. She said he was. She says she didn't leak information from closed session. And yet, on April 9th, we have her statement saying what happened supposedly in closed session the night before. Again, either it happened or she made it up, I don't know which, and you can't tell with this particular person because she lies. No, the city attorney will not refute her own email to me, and all of you can get a copy of it and read it for yourself. I'm sorry, folks. The information you're getting from my opponent, it is untrue, it is false, it is invented to help her get elected. Thank you.
Jim, you didn't answer the question.
I did.
No.
At the start, I said, at the very start, I said the ordinance isn't there. I said it. I answered it.
Okay, Jim, you're first. Can each of you identify one policy or proposal from your opponent's platform that you find commendable and would consider incorporating into your plans if elected?
Absolutely. My opponent said in her video, we need to get the homeless out as soon as we can. She said we needed to do that. She said we've got to get housing for them. I couldn't agree more. We have to do that. She said we have to take care of them. We have to treat, and she may not have said that in the video, but she said other times as individuals. I agree. These people are homeless, most of them because they have mental health issues, a number of them because they have addiction issues. And those need to be addressed. And I believe my opponent knows that. I don't think she has a clue how to do it, but I think she understands that that's a problem. And I commend her for that, and she's right. That's what we need to do. I also agree with her about corruption. We have still corruption going on in the city of San Bernardino. And her main financier is one of the people that's most involved in pay to play. I mean, just look at the records. Look at her own campaign donation sheet. She lists $5,500 from Mr. Beard and $5,500 from her partner. That's where she got was her biggest donation. He's also the one that put out the lies about Damon Alexander and myself during the last election, saying all kinds of terrible things about us that just were not true. And you're going to hear more. And you heard her. Her only thing to talk about is the bankruptcy and the recall. And you've got documents where Mayor Valles tells you the recall wasn't right. And you've got 2 Superior Court judges on the back telling you it was bogus. It was bogus. And my client, my opponents, I keep saying clients because I'm still a lawyer, my opponent's statements, thank God she's not my client, my opponent's statements are false. They are false. They are false, and it's a major problem when you're an attorney and you have to represent somebody who doesn't tell the truth. And I feel bad for Sonia Carvajal if she gets elected, because that's what she's going to be representing.
I would love to support my opponent's plans, but he has none and has not presented anything to you. And that's the point. If your topic is me, because you're mad Scott Beard got 65% of the people to recall you, that's between you and Scott. That's not about me. See, that's the thing, San Bernardino. It's all this old fighting that has nothing to do with the future. No plan for homelessness, other than repeating what I've laid out, and go ahead and see the plan. To involve public safety to make sure that your streets are paved by taking the CIP further and making sure that the matrix is there. We're living on streets that haven't been paved in 30 years. Investing into new technology and smart cities so that the burden on PD doesn't just reside on their shoulders, and we can enhance emergency services and response times. It's in making sure that we have the adequate investments between us and the school district so that our kids have a strong park and rec program. I would love to support that, but that's not what James Penman talks about. Because he has too much time trying for us to forget his legacy. This is what has to change, San Bernardino. I want you to look 20 years down the road, and what about a general plan? I can't support, he's never talked about what a general plan looks like. A specific plan for the downtown, making sure that our buildings just don't burn so that people can come back in. So we have a revitalization of the strongest economics. How about a 40th Street corridor plan, a specific plan, so that we place to shop, and a Highland Avenue plan. And that's with all the council members that run up and down Highland working together. How about a Route 66 Mount Vernon plan? That, San Bernardino, is what I'm here for. I can't tell you what my opponent stands for, because all he does is stand and talk about me. Is that what you want? That's the representation you want? Because what if you want to run? That's what you want to represent our city when they go out to League of Cities? No, I want someone that wants to talk about you and your future. And that's why I'm your candidate for the 7th Ward.
No, let's not start cheerleading. Okay, you're still up, Tricia. What type of housing and building sites do you envision for the homeless in San Bernardino? What sites, if any, would be in the 7th Ward?
So because homelessness is so multifaceted, we need emergency beds, we need transitional housing, we need specified treatment housing for the mentally ill and the drug addicted. We need permanent housing for the working poor and for the working unhoused. And in the 7th Ward, we have a unique position because we don't have a big commercial corridor, a big space, but we do have a lot of infill lots. Now, I'm a professor at Cal State, and what I deal with a lot are students who are unhoused because of the cost. And even on-campus housing is expensive, and student loans. So what I would like to do is look at bringing in into the infills in our neighborhoods, little pocket housing, almost like little dormitory, not ADUs, but a house, a manufactured segment of a house for them to be able to rent a room in. Ecclesia Church has a huge lot, you know where all the homeless collect right off of Del Rosa in that big field? They want to build housing, affordable housing and transitional housing. The city has the money, the church has the land, and I would love to work with them because they can also afford the wraparound services and the community support in all of this. We have an opportunity right now for the 7th Ward to design what homeless plans look like for us. If you're not 100% behind a shelter, well then let's make sure that our space is being utilized the way that we want it for every facet. If your heart's for children, let's make sure we have a Tay house in the 7th Ward. If your heart's for the vets, let's put veteran housing in our ward. Let's take care of the people that we love and want to take care of. And because there is no plan, we can start now. We can start designing it and work with the council. Thank you.
Repeated question. What type of housing and building sites do you envision for the homeless in San Bernardino? What sites, if any, would be in the 7th Ward?
City already has a plan for the homeless, and it's gonna be implemented shortly. What my opponent says about why we aren't closing the parks, it's not true. They already kicked them out of Nicholson Park a week or two ago. And that's the first thing. Paris Hill and Wildwood are much bigger. It takes a lot more time, a lot more planning to do it. I follow the plan of the city that's been created by the city homeless coordinator. I follow the chief's plan. Those are the plans that are going to work. Those are plans. No, they're not my personal plans, although what we did before when I was there influenced them. But those are the plans. And the main place is going to be on 6th Street, just east of Waterman, and that's not in the 7th Ward. Now, it's interesting, my opponent talks about me, my failed legacy or whatever she said and all that. She sent me a text message on September 8th when she was trying to convince me to support her against David Alexander. And in that she said, it would be great to see your legacy live on. And you never know, you could still be hanging out causing a fuss. That's what she said to me in September 8th of last year. And I'll blow this up for the next meeting. And now she says, well, I'm trying to, something about my bad legacy, I'm trying to continue it. I mean, come on. When do you believe her? Was she saying the truth this time when she was trying to get me to endorse her candidacy for council against Damon Alexander, my fellow veteran? Or, and now she says that, you know, we don't need me coming back. And she says, you never know, you could still be hanging out causing a fuss. And that's the other thing. How can she sit up there and say that all I do is attack people? She attacked Mayor Valdivia, she attacked Mayor Ms. Tran, she attacked the 4 council members that are returning. You know, 4 council members coming back, she's attacked them all and the mayor. How is she going to get any cooperation there? 7th Ward's going to be isolated. Don't worry about the homeless being put here unless she gets elected. If she gets elected, you could have the homeless come in here. Is that a blue flag or red? How much time we got? Blue.
I mean, it should be red.
That's what I thought. Thank you. I didn't want to, unlike my opponent, I don't like to break the rules.
Okay, Jim, you're still up. San Bernardino recently ranked #1 as the dirtiest city in the U.S. A lot of trash is found on the streets of the 7th Ward, in part from homeless persons dropping it or going through our trash barrels. What steps will you take to solve this problem?
Same thing I said in the mayor's race and in the primary. We've got to have more cops. We've got to pay more money to code enforcement. We've got to get better training for code enforcement. We've got to enforce the laws that are already on the books. That's what it takes. We're not going to just sit, the city council's not going to go out there and stop some homeless person from going through your trash. We need police officers and we need code enforcement. We also need to bring back, and the chief and I have discussed this, retired San Bernardino cops to come back as investigators under the code that I wrote. They can make all the arrests on all the sites, have temporary police officer powers. They can handle the homeless like they did successfully for 26 years here. They're the ones that can do it. That's what, and the chief agrees with that. And my opponent likes to sit down and call her my friend. My opponent likes to say, I read the text. My opponent likes to say, well, call the city attorney. Call the chief. Ask him, how do you feel about bringing back retired cops? That's what Penman said last night at the Nena. Chief's, sure he's going to tell you what he told me. Great idea, let's do it. You know, we can solve these problems, but we can't solve them with somebody who doesn't know what's going on. And we certainly can't solve them. And the 7th Ward's going to have no representation effective on the council if she wins, because Mayor Tran is not going to help her. Ted Sanchez isn't going to help her. Sandra Barr is not going to help her. Juan Figueroa is not going to help her. Fred Charrette's not going to help her. She's attacked all of them. She talks about me attacking her. She's at every council meeting. She attacked Mayor Tran last night at the council meeting.
It's funny when accountability looks like an attack, right? When you talk about things that matter. But that's what happens. Because you know the truth is about James Penman is when he is nowhere near politics, he is a good person. But he's the definition of power, and absolute power absolutely corrupts. To Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I very much enjoyed sitting with him and hearing his stories of what he was doing in Utah, because that's what we were talking about. But I don't like this. You know why? Because it's not about you. And that's what we need to make sure that we are focusing on, is the heart of our issues. Trash. The city is the dirtiest. You know why? One, no receptacles. So when you walk down the streets, do you see places just to throw away trash? No. Two, code enforcement lacks. So if you litter, it is not about, can you imagine padding the budget in PD more than it is now with our current state? We can't do that. What I talked to Chief about and what he actually supports and is actually doing is bringing back our civilian force, bringing back jobs to regular people so that they can be CSOs, community service officers, go around the city. They can be helping supplement with parking enforcement. We can help train them to become code enforcement officers. Our city looks the way that we treat it. Our city looks the way that our elected officials value it. They talk trash. They present the worst policies that affect you. And no one has said, hey, let's take these community initiatives. Think about all the work you do as a neighborhood association, only to watch it fade a week later. We need to make the proper investments so that people have pride in their city, and that starts with leadership. If you can't be proud in who represents you, then you're not going to carry that with you into your own neighborhood. Thank you.
Given your previous mayoral campaigns, will your focus be primarily on addressing the specific needs of Ward 7, or will you be concentrating on larger citywide issues to build name recognition for a future mayoral run?
So it's the priorities of the 7th, but they meet the priorities of every other ward. Homelessness, everybody wants to address homelessness. Street paving, light, code enforcement. The goal for myself is to make sure that the 7th ward is heard and that the city is actually being taken care of. We cannot go backwards and we cannot stand still. And that is my primary objective. I don't want to be here when I'm 80 years old, trying to pretend like we're going to turn a corner that has yet to come. I have a life. I'm still young. I want to go do things. I just want to live in a city where I can shop, where I can walk down the streets, where kids have a great opportunity at having a job above minimum wage and out of a warehouse, where the elderly feel safe and won't be accosted by someone just because they want to get gas in their car, where you guys can go downtown and have a thriving life. That is all I'm here for. That has been my mission for 5 years. You know why? Because the city has failed every year for 50 years. Mr. Penman once said in the newspaper that the city felt safer 25 years ago in 2013. And he said it because they used to just take the homeless and drop them in Colton. That the city's always struggled. And that was a decade ago. I don't want to live like that. And you can see the articles on the paper in front of you. You can Google it. Who wants to keep living like this? And there's a whole generation of people who could sell their houses and move. Or we can stand together and we can fight for a future. Finally. You cannot drive a car looking through the rearview mirror. Our future and our plans have to be right in front of us every single day with a mission that our livelihoods and the livelihoods of your children and grandchildren will prosper. And without that, stay. If you want to stay where you are, if you want to go back to bankruptcy, you know where to go. If you want change and you want something new and real and tangible, then you be real and new and tangible in your thoughts and minds and dreams for this city. Thank you.
Given your previous mayoral campaigns, will your focus be primarily on addressing the specific needs of Ward 7, or will you be concentrating on larger citywide issues to build name recognition for a future mayoral run?
Mayor Tran kicked my tail in the last mayor's election. I don't like getting my tail kicked. I don't have any plans to run for mayor again. I'm 76 years old. By the time my term ends, I'll be 80 or something, 80, 81? No. But unlike some people in national office, my mental facilities are sharp. I work out, I'm in good shape, and I don't show any, I got a battery of doctors who will tell you that I'm good for the go and I'm good for this particular election. Now, my opponent just said that something about going back to me and we'll be back to court, bankruptcy court. Well, here's her bankruptcy filing. I guess she knows the way to the bankruptcy court. My involvement in that was a private firm was hired to specialize in bankruptcy and came in and handled that. In any event, no, I don't plan to do that. I do plan to get elected here. I am here. I've been here all my life. I've lived in the 7th Ward for, oh God, no, a lot longer than that. I mean, we bought our house in 19, my wife just said, we don't need to know, so I won't tell you. I've been here virtually all my life, and I've lived in the 7th Ward, I'm sure 3 times longer than my opponents lived in San Bernardino. When we talk about people just going from one thing to another, my opponent ran, and how she just wants to stay in San Bernardino and be able to shop. My opponent lived in another city, ran for council and lost. Then she moved to San Bernardino, moved into the 3rd Ward, ran for some office, moved into the 3rd Ward, at least that's what I was told, moved into the 3rd Ward, ran for council there and lost. Now, then after she lost that, she moved into the 7th Ward. And all she wants to do is shop in San Bernardino. I don't think so.
Okay, it is time now for closing statements. So the first one will be Treasurer.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming tonight. I hope, at least for my half, you actually heard how I wish to affect change in this city. We can't stay where we're at. Otherwise, we are going to either dissolve again into the bankruptcy that Mr. Penman was a part of for 30 years as a city attorney. We're going to go back. I mean, talk about Valdivia when you're using his own campaign team. That's interesting. Talk about no plan and wanting the mayor to do what for you? Just going along to get along is why we're here, San Bernardino. If you want to challenge the way that things are, you have to stand up because no one is here to protect you. If you want to be friends and hang out, you can go, there's council members that will do that. But if you want to affect policy, if you want to do real things in this city, then you're going to vote for me. Because we're running out of opportunities. Now, I get Mr. Penman probably doesn't remember everything that he's been told, but no, this is my home. This is where I want. This is why I continue fighting to be a part of the decision making. Because when you stand up and give a comment for 3 minutes, they roll their eyes at you and they don't care. Because the old elected officials in this city keep coming back because there's little money, there's a little opportunity, not for you, but for them. Talk about special interests. It is time, San Bernardino, for us to move forward. If you want to go back, Jim Penman, your guy. If you want to go back to 2002, you want to go back to bankruptcy, recall, you want to go back to all that, go. Or you can go into the future. We will walk into 2025 triumphant in the idea and the knowledge that we are going to put forward thinking in the forefront. We have all night with that council to tell them, hey, what about this? And what do you think about that? And here's the budget. And what can we do here? Instead of just 3 minutes. You're right here at the split. Past, future. That's in your hands. and what I've seen, especially from the primary, is you guys are ready for this future. Because if not, this is what you get. Blow-ups. You spend more money preparing your blow-ups off Facebook, and almost everybody who follows me, you could save some money at Kinko's, than you did preparing for the future of the city of San Bernardino. It's obvious to me, and I see it's obvious to you in the back. So let's do this November 5th. Let's bring San Bernardino back. Let's become the all-America city we used to be with today's qualifications and innovations. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Have a great night.
Wait a minute, we're not done yet.
Sometimes when I wear my United States Army cap into staters, people ask, why do you wear that old Army cap? And my answer is, I earned it. People ask me, why do you keep talking about when you were city attorney and all the drug houses you closed? Because I'm proud of it and I earned it. Now people are asking me, why should we vote for you instead of your appointment? And I'll give you several reasons, or your opponent. I'll give you several reasons. The first reason, and the lesser important reason, is that I've already earned your vote. I've already paid my dues, but that's the lesser reason. The reason above that is I will continue to earn your vote every day I am in office, every single day. I will work to get the homeless off the streets and out of the parks. I will work to clean up this city. I will work to clean up every neighborhood in this city. I will work to clean up the 7th Ward, and I will work to clean up the city of San Bernardino. And I won't be just working for myself. I'm a lawyer. The time I'm going to spend on the council is going to cut into my pay significantly. But I'm still going to do that. I'm going to fight for this city, and I'm going to fight for you, and I'm going to fight for your children, and I'm going to fight for your grandchildren. And I will tell you this. I have never filed a personal bankruptcy, unlike my opponent. I have never been arrested for domestic violence, unlike my opponent.
That is a lie.
I can prove it.
No, you cannot. I'm sorry, you guys, but we're not doing that. That is an absolute, no, I'm sorry. That is an absolute.
Sit down. Sit down.
No, sit down. I'm sorry, but.
Follow the rules.
And now I'm going to sue you. Thank you.
During the 3rd Ward Council campaign, during the candidates forum, my opponent stated that she had been arrested, and she said that
That is a lie.
a police sergeant at the jail had turned her life around by talking to her, and I have people who will testify to that, so sue me. That's fine. I don't say anything that I am not prepared to defend in court, and I am prepared to defend that. So, if I could finish from my interruption and get the time that I lost, unlike my opponent, I have never had a city investigation find that I participated in leaking closed session information. That has happened here. I have never put on video myself telling you that the homeless couldn't be moved because of the injunction. And then I've never had my supporters follow that up by posting online. Penman never talked to the city attorney. The city attorney has denied talking to Penman. No, you saw the email. That's not true. It's one lie after the other. And my information is that everything I have said tonight is absolutely true, and I'm ready to go to court and prove it. And man, I am good in court. We lost very few lawsuits when I was city attorney, and I would love to have the opportunity to do that in court. No, I wasn't personally trying that case. Are we done, or? I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for your vote. We're going to turn this city around. This starts November 5. That's what that election is about. That's what we're going to decide, and that's what you're going to decide. Do you want a dedicated public servant who cares about this city, or do you want somebody who lies and interrupts people when they're trying to talk and attacks everybody else at the council? That's your choice. I'll be happy with whatever you decide. Thank you.